Have you ever had the strange feeling that something was wrong, but couldn't explain what? As if your decisions weren't entirely yours, as if you were being guided by an invisible force. Perhaps you've done favors you didn't want to do, given in arguments where you were right or trusted people who later showed a different face. If this has ever happened to you, and I know it has, then this video is for you. Because the brutal truth is you are being manipulated every day by people close to you, by the media, by leaders, by those who know how to operate the secret mechanisms of the human mind. And the worst part, you don't even realize it. You don't need hypnosis or cinematic mind control. The most effective manipulation is the one that makes you think you are in control, that the decision was yours, that the mistake was yours. Most people live like this, silently being guided like pieces on a board game they didn't even know they were playing. And when they try to react, they feel guilt, fear, doubt. They have been emotionally trained not to resist. And if you think this doesn't happen to you, stop right now, because that's exactly what a good manipulator wants you to think. In this video, I won't offer you comfort. I will give you tools. Because those who master the art of manipulation, as Machiavelli understood, don't need to shout or force. They simply observe, understand your weaknesses, and act. They know what drives you, and if you don't know, you will be driven. You will understand how people manipulate without you realizing it. You will recognize the patterns, the emotional tricks, the subtle games of control. You will identify your own vulnerabilities and learn how to shield your mind. Because true freedom isn't about doing what you want, but knowing why you want it. This video is a call, a summon for those who are tired of being used. For those who have suffered in silence, been blamed, silenced, and conditioned. Here you will learn to step out of the role of puppet and take on the role of strategist. But I warn you, once you see, you won't be able to pretend you don't know anymore. So from now on, get ready, because what you are about to discover may completely change the way you see people and yourself. Have you ever noticed how certain people always seem to get what they want, even when they don't deserve it? They don't shout, threaten, or beg. They persuade, they engage, they make you believe that giving in was your idea. This isn't charisma, it's technique, it's manipulation in its purest and most effective form. The manipulator doesn't act on impulse. They observe, they study you, your reactions, your weaknesses, your emotional needs. They notice when you need approval, when you fear rejection, when you feel guilty for saying no, and they use that to manipulate you. Manipulation begins before the first word. It starts with the silent reading of your body language, the tone of your voice, the pauses between sentences. Some use charm. They smile, compliment, present themselves as different from others. They make you feel seen, heard, and special. But behind this veneer of kindness, there is calculation. They are creating an emotional debt in you, because when someone is too good, your instinct pushes you to reciprocate, and that's when you start to give in. Others prefer guilt. They play the victim. They say they are overwhelmed, that no one understands them, that they only have you. Gradually, they put you in a position of emotional responsibility, and if you pull away or say no, they don't need to fight. A sigh, a cutting remark, a look of sadness is enough. The subtle manipulator never needs to ask explicitly. They make you offer, and then there are those who use fear. They create catastrophic scenarios. If you do this, you'll end up alone. If you leave me, you'll never find someone like me again. They don't bind you with chains, but with ideas. They make you doubt your own ability to act, and so you remain trapped of your own valuation. Niccolo Machiavelli, in The Prince, described with surgical coldness how manipulation can be used as a legitimate tool of power. He understood before anyone else that human beings are driven by interests and emotions, and that those who grasp this can shape realities. As he said, men judge more by their eyes than by their hands, because all can see, but few can touch. Manipulation is precisely that, a visual and emotional spectacle set up to appear as reality. The manipulator creates a theater, and you, without realizing it, become part of the cast. They assign roles, write the script, and make you act. And the scariest part, you believe the plot is yours. But this theater only works because there is something within you that allows it. A gap, an emotional weakness, an unacknowledged desire. This is where we enter the next part, the vulnerability that makes you a target. Because as long as you don't see what weakens you, you will continue to be manipulated, and call it love, friendship, or respect. Let's expose this now. You are not manipulated because you are weak. You are manipulated because you are human. Because there exists within every human being an emotional blind spot, an unresolved desire, a wound that hasn't healed, a silent need that acts as a gap. And that's where the manipulator comes in. They don't force, they listen, they perceive what you don't even see in yourself. Some of us carry an insatiable thirst for approval. From an early age, we were taught to please in order to deserve affection. We learned the love comes as a reward, not as a right, and so we begin to shape our attitudes to be accepted, valued, and seen. This need, this hole in the chest, is an invitation for the manipulator. They give you crumbs of validation, and you return blind loyalty. They say what you want to hear, and in exchange you give up your autonomy. Others carry guilt as an invisible burden. They blame themselves for saying no, for prioritizing themselves, for setting boundaries. They were taught that thinking of oneself is selfish, that sacrificing oneself is a virtue, and that's why even when they feel something is wrong, they don't react because they think they are being too harsh, ungrateful, or cold. The manipulator knows this guilt. They insinuate themselves as someone who only wants what's best for you. And with that, they begin to control your decisions through distorted morality. And there are still those who carry fear. Fear of rejection, fear of loneliness, fear of being forgotten. Such people cling to any connection, even if toxic, out of dread of facing the void. The manipulator offers a false sense of security and then threatens to take it away. They make you feel that without them, you are nobody, and you believe it because your fear already told you that before they did. All these vulnerabilities have an origin. They don't arise from nowhere. They are the result of past experiences, silent trauma, and inherited emotional conditioning. But as long as you don't confront these wounds, they remain open, and those who approach with a smile on their lips and ulterior motives know exactly where to touch. Machiavelli knew this. He understood that real control doesn't require force, only knowledge of human weaknesses. The nature of peoples is variable, he wrote, and it's easy to convince them of one thing, but difficult to keep them in that conviction. The manipulator then does not convince. They occupy empty spaces. They settle where awareness is lacking, but there is a way out. You don't have to continue being emotionally predictable. You can learn to identify your own gaps and seal them. Only then will you stop being an easy target and start living with clarity, and that's exactly what we will reveal in the next part. How to develop real emotional armor. Creating true immunity against manipulation. Are you ready to stop being a hostage? Because the next step requires courage. Most people want to stop being manipulated, but few are willing to pay the price of emotional freedom, brutal awareness, because the truth sets you free. But first it hurts, and the first wound you need to heal is the illusion that being good, empathetic, and understanding protects you. It doesn't protect you. In fact, it is these virtues, when not balanced with clarity, that make you an easy target. Developing emotional immunity is not about becoming cold, but about becoming aware. It's about stopping the automatic reactions to the emotional triggers that manipulators use against you. And the first step to that is recognizing your patterns. Stop and observe. What triggers make you give in? Is it the fear of disappointing someone, the anxiety of being rejected, the desire to keep the peace at any cost? When you understand what drives you, you start to change the game. The second step is to cultivate what Machiavelli would call strategic detachment. You need to learn to emotionally distance yourself from situations without losing empathy. This means observing without immediately getting involved. It means not responding to compliments as if they were absolute truths. It means noticing when someone is guiding you through emotion and pausing to think before reacting. The manipulator relies on your emotional urgency. They need you to feel, not to think. So think. The third step is to become unpredictable. Manipulators work with predictability. They map your responses. They know that if they cry, you will comfort them. If they compliment you, you will let your guard down. If they pressure you, you will give in. Your defense lies in breaking this pattern. Surprise them. Say no when they expect a yes. Disappear when they expect you to insist. Stay silent when they expect a confrontation. This disarms the game and forces the other person to reveal their true intentions. Another fundamental point is building a solid identity. The more you know who you are, the less you need to prove it, and the less you need to prove, the less power others have over you. Manipulators thrive on controlling the perception you have of yourself. They make you doubt, question, and reevaluate, always in line with their narrative. When your internal vision is firm, external control loses its strength, and don't be fooled. This training emotional immunity doesn't come from a video. It comes from the constant practice of self-observation, resisting the urgency to please, and standing by your decisions even when there's discomfort in the air. It comes from remembering that you owe nothing to anyone but your mental integrity, and staying sane in a world where everyone plays emotional games is in itself an act of resistance. Machiavelli wrote that men must be pampered or destroyed, for if merely offended, they will take revenge. This thought is harsh, but it reveals an uncomfortable truth. In the game of power, there is no neutrality. Either you dominate the emotional field, or you will be dominated by it. But what if the manipulator is at home, at work, in bed next to you? How to act when you can't simply cut the ties in the next part. We will delve into the more delicate realm of manipulation, close relationships, and how to escape emotional control even when the manipulator is someone you love. And this perhaps will be the hardest test of your strength. If what you're hearing resonates with you, you'll find real value in my ebook, Beyond the Shadow. It breaks down Jung's core ideas and gives you tools to understand yourself more deeply. Link is in the pinned comment. It's easy to talk about manipulation when the manipulator is a stranger. The hard part is facing this truth when the one who controls you is someone you love, a father, a mother, a partner, a boss who gave you a chance, a childhood friend. In these cases, manipulation is more subtle, more dangerous, and more painful because it comes disguised as affection, care, loyalty, and you, out of fear of losing the connection, remain trapped in an emotional web that consumes your energy, your clarity, your identity. The intimate manipulator doesn't need to lie. They distort. They don't need to shout. They insinuate. They don't stop you from choosing. They make you feel guilty for choosing differently. Over time, you stop questioning. You start walking on eggshells. You avoid conflicts. You anticipate reactions to keep the peace. And without realizing it, you become a hostage of an invisible prison built with the bricks of emotion. In a romantic relationship, this can seem like affection. I only do this because I love you. Without you, my life has no meaning. But love that demands submission is not love. It's emotional blackmail. In the family, it dresses itself as tradition. You can't do this to your mother. You owe us respect. But respect that comes from guilt is not respect, it's control. At work, it presents itself as loyalty. You have to be grateful. Who else will give you a chance like this? But gratitude used as a debt is pure manipulation. And here's the central point. Proximity does not justify emotional violation. Love does not give the right to shape the other with fear or guilt. However, to break this cycle, you first need to accept something uncomfortable. Not every relationship where there is affection is healthy. Not every person who loves you knows how to love you freely. And not every bond that holds you is protecting you. Some are just preventing you from growing. But how to act? Start by setting boundaries. Clear, firm boundaries that don't need justification. A no said with serenity has more power than 1,000 arguments. Then comes exposure. Say what you see, what you feel, what you will no longer accept. Not to convince the other, but to assert yourself before yourself. And finally stand firm when the reactions come, because they will come. Insults, victimhood, punitive silence. The manipulator feeds on your hesitation. They test your limits, hoping you will back down. And here's the reality that few have the courage to face. Sometimes loving someone means stepping away. It means exiting the dysfunctional dance and letting the other confront their own emptiness. Because as long as you are there, trying to save, sustain, or explain, they will not change and you will lose yourself. It's a difficult choice, but a necessary one, because only those who free themselves from toxic bonds can develop a new kind of vision, one that sees beyond words, beyond masks, beyond superficial intentions. And it is with this new vision that we enter the next stage. How to apply Machiavelli's strategic thinking in modern life to keep the mind shielded in a world where everything and everyone tries to influence you. The time has come to turn the tables. Machiavelli never wrote to please. He didn't care about appearing ethical, virtuous, or well-intentioned. His commitment was to raw, unvarnished reality, the kind that most prefer to ignore. And if you want to survive psychologically in today's world, you need to learn to think like he did, with brutal clarity, cold strategy, and emotional detachment. Because make no mistake, we live in an era of constant manipulation. Social media, marketing, politics, religion, relationships. Everything operates based on influence, image narrative. Those who do not understand this are swallowed by it. Machiavelli saw human beings as predictable, driven by interests and emotions, and he asserted that those who understand these mechanisms hold power. He said, "Men generally judge more by their eyes than by their hands. Everyone can see, but few can touch." In other words, perception is worth more than truth. And that's how the game works today. Whoever controls the narrative controls the decisions. Whoever controls the image controls the influence. And whoever understands the psychological mechanisms controls the behavior of others without needing to raise their voice. In practice, what does this mean? It means you need to stop living on emotional autopilot. Machiavelli did not believe in universal morality. He believed in context. What works for one may be a weakness for another. What seems noble in theory can be strategic. Suicide in reality, kindness without discernment is foolishness. Honesty without timing is self-sabotage. Limitless altruism is servitude. If you want to be free, you need to learn to play the game and play it well. This starts with observation. Learn to read people as Machiavelli read the nobles. Not by what they say, but by what they do when no one is watching. Evaluate behaviors, not promises. Analyze patterns, not excuses. Trust less in words and more in the hidden interests behind them. And above all, do not react. Anticipate. The manipulator acts strategically. Your defense is to always be one step ahead, then apply silence as a weapon. One of the biggest mistakes people make is excessive emotional exposure. They show too much. They talk too much. They explain too much. The Machiavellian understands that silence confuses, commands, respect, and disrupts the manipulator's rhythm. When you do not react as expected, the game loses its script, and it is in that void that you gain control. Another essential application is mastering ambiguity. Machiavelli taught that to maintain power, one must know how to appear virtuous without necessarily being so. In the modern world, this means adapting your language, your posture, your presence, according to the environment without losing your essence. You do not need to reveal yourself completely. You only need to show enough to control perception. The rest you keep to yourself, because real power is what is not displayed, and most importantly, take responsibility for your own emotional state. The manipulator feeds on your instability. They need you to doubt, fear, and hesitate. When you know yourself, regulate yourself, and remain steadfast, even under pressure, you become impenetrable. Machiavelli would write, "The prudent man should follow the paths beaten by the great and imitate those who have been excellent, so that even if he does not reach their level, he may come close." In other words, use the wisdom of those who mastered the game to stop being a pawn in it. Now that you understand the workings of manipulation and how to strategically protect yourself from it, one question remains: what to do with all this? How to transform this knowledge into practical strength, into a new way of existing in the world, immune to external influence. This is what we will explore in the final part. How to take control of your own mind and never be manipulated by anyone again. Are you ready to cut the last invisible strings that still control you? Then continue. We have reached the most important point of this video, and perhaps the hardest to accept. As long as you do not take full control of your mind, someone else will do it for you. And it doesn't have to be a Machiavellian villain, a caricatured manipulative figure. Sometimes it's someone smiling next to you. Sometimes it's a phrase you heard as a child and still carry today without questioning. Sometimes it's society itself, which shapes you from an early age to obey, yield, and remain silent. The manipulation that affects you is not just in the words of others. It's in the thoughts you never learn to question. It's in the emotions you treat as absolute truths. It's in the decisions you call choices, but which in reality were induced by fear, guilt, and the need for acceptance. Freedom begins when you stop calling free will what is in fact disguised conditioning. But this freedom comes at a cost. It requires you to break the illusion that everyone has good intentions. It demands that you dismantle the image you've built of yourself as someone who must always be kind, understanding, and available. It requires you to tolerate the discomfort of setting boundaries, the weight of silence after a no, the loneliness of stepping away from dynamics that harmed you but that seemed like part of your identity. You will no longer be manipulated when you understand that you no longer need to be accepted, when the fear of displeasing no longer holds power over your actions, when your clarity is greater than your neediness, and when finally you can look into the eyes of those who tried to control you and calmly say no more. What you do with this knowledge now depends only on you. You can go back to your life and forget everything. Continue playing the game without knowing you are being played, or you can start today to train your mind to observe, analyze, resist, and rebuild. You can choose to become the kind of person who does not bend to emotional blackmail, who sees through the masks, who walks firmly even when everyone around is going in circles. Comment below. At what moment in your life did you realize you were being manipulated? What was the click that made you see? Or are you still caught in some emotional game and want help to get out? Share. Speak up, because verbalizing is the first step to breaking the cycle. And if this video opened your eyes, don't stop here. Watch the next one. It is just as important as this one. Perhaps more. Knowledge is a ladder, and each step takes you a little further from the darkness. So keep climbing, because the truth not only sets you free, it it transforms. See you there. Discover the hidden tactics manipulators use to control your mind and how to become immune to them. Inspired by the ruthless insights of Niccolo Machiavelli, this video is a psychological survival guide for anyone tired of being used. Watch until the end. Your clarity starts here.